Today, the AdvisorHub Women's Advisor Network presents 20 minutes to accelerating growth from top producing AdviseHERS. Today, we will hear from Holly Reimel and Beth Fitzgerald, co-founders of AdviseHer Consulting. Our speakers will share top producing financial advisors' best ideas from 2024. You will be able to attract ideal clients and book yourself solid in 2025 with these top tips. Should you have a question, please click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we will do our best to answer it. And if not, Holly and Beth will follow up with you after the webinar. During the webinar, we will be posting links to 2 upcoming events in the chat feature: AdviseHer Consulting Speak Up Workshop, a presenting class for financial advisors, and the AdvisorHub Women's Advisor Summit to be held in New York City on April 23rd. And we hope to see you at both. And now, here are our speakers, Holly and Beth.
Hey, thanks, Patrick, and Happy New Year, everyone. Beth and I are excited to be here to share all these great ideas that we got from some of your colleagues and top producing advisors. Our goal is to inspire you to try something a little different this year, and most importantly, do something consistently. So let's dive right in. Beth, what is our first idea?
Yes, our first idea is from a top producer, and her name is Lisa, and she's out of Ohio. And she had an incredible breakthrough this year. I love this breakthrough. She realized that she was maxed out on capacity. And you know, Holly, you and I have talked about the fact that we can't scale ourselves, and we tell our clients that as well. And Lisa came to this realization. So she made a game-changing decision, and she hired a junior advisor. And she gave that person the responsibility of the bottom half of her book. Now, the beautiful part of that was that freed Lisa up, right? So it allowed her to step into that rainmaking role that she so loves. And she was able to focus her energy on developing stronger relationships with her clients. She was able to serve her top clients better and to really drive new business development. So she, the other thing, actually, in addition to the junior advisor, she instituted a minimum asset requirement if you wanted to work with her directly. So, which also freed up even more of her time. So her business grew exponentially because she was able to concentrate on what she does best. But also, she was also ensuring that all of her clients were well cared for, either by her or for this junior advisor. So I love this idea because it's a perfect example of what happens when we are strategic about delegation and when we use that threshold of services to elevate our practice to the next level. So I love this idea.
Yeah, you know what? That is a great idea. And it's so funny because we talk to advisors who maybe can't afford to hire a junior yet or don't have the time to train a junior. And so, but they kind of feel icky turning people away. So even though they have a minimum, they go, how do I turn people away? So what Beth and I suggest is the following. If you have an event or you meet someone at a cocktail hour or what have you, and they say, oh, I'd love you to be my advisor, and you find out they're not meeting that minimum, a way to get around, feeling bad and still serving a lot of people, which you want to do, is to say to them, most of my clients are, in the 2 to 3 million or whatever your threshold is, but they're strategic wealth clients, and they have a lot of complicated problems, and that's my expertise. But I have such a passion for helping wealth starters that what I have for you is this program, and I offer it monthly or quarterly, and we open our doors to wealth starters so that we can help educate you, and you can pick our brains with any questions you might have. So you're giving those people a place who aren't meeting this minimum if you can't hire a junior to service them. And it's also a great next gen idea, because if you have wealthy clients and they have children, it's a great way to serve those children and help them get to know you better so that when they do meet your minimum, they can become clients.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to jump into our next idea, which is amazing all-female team at RBC in New York City. And these three powerhouse women have been together for 28 years. You and I first met them at the AdvisorHub event a couple of years ago, and that is Eden Lopez Roble, Leslie Schwartz, and Paula Steinberg. And their big growth idea is what they're calling a reverse strategy. So let me tell you a little bit about their client. They focus on female entrepreneurs and leaders that fall into categories like athletes, founders, CEO suite, and beyond. And so this reverse strategy that they have implemented is something that they have decided is going to work for them. So instead of leading with a product or a plan, they focus on truly engaging with the individual so that they can empower and nurture a relationship. They cast a wide net. So one of the big things that they really pride themselves on is listening really well and connecting at a really deep level. So this idea isn't about closing sales at all. It's about building trust, and they want to be seen. Their whole team wants to be viewed as a trusted resource. So whether the sale happens a year from now or it happens right around the corner, they are strategically focused on connecting to the person. And this personal approach has been a game changer for them for the years. And they have this thriving practice that is built on meaningful and long-lasting relationships. And you and I have talked about this forever, but I love this approach.
Yeah, it's funny because we were just talking to a client who said she met with a prospect and she's like, I just felt like I, kind of threw up everything I knew. Like, oh, you could do long-term care and oh my gosh, I could talk to you about all these things. And she said, I think I wanted to look really smart and let them know that I have experience. And, what Beth and I suggest is when you're meeting with a prospect or, even again at the cocktail party or at the soccer game, make sure that you're only focused on the next step. So often we're focused on, oh, we want that client and we know that they would be a great client. But the goal should be, what's the next step? And the next step is probably a coffee or a phone call. So don't think about, I want this person to know I'm smart and be my client. Think about, I want this person to like me and I want them to join me for coffee so that I can get to know them better and forge the relationship. Because as we all know, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And if we rush into a sales pitch or rush into, telling them everything we know, we often see their backs as they walk away.
Yes, we do.
Which we don't want. So next idea comes from Patty at RBC. And she said this past year, actually 2 years ago, her team started doubling down on COIs or centers of influence. And she said, we have had so much success because we are inviting our, list of qualified centers of influence to all of our client appreciation events. And it has really led to forging some good relationships and trust, letting your centers of influence in with your client base, which is always a win. One of the things that they do that I thought was kind of cute is they always send CPAs care packages around the time of April 15th. So, that's a cute idea just to keep your name in front of them as they're doing people's taxes, and they might be making recommendations at that time. Another COI idea that came in is from a top producer in Nebraska. And she did something really interesting. She formed a group of 12 women, 12 successful, what you would consider center of influence women. And each of them has a month to host an event. So if I'm part of the group and I'm hosting the event, I can have a speaker. I might have a challenge that I'm facing that I send out to the, 11 other women and say, hey, this is my challenge. Come armed with some advice for me. And she said this has been instrumental in, not just establishing trust and getting referrals, but in finding like-minded women that you want to spend your time with once a month and really help each other build your businesses.
I love that idea. I love that idea. All right. My next idea also comes from Patty, a top producer in Maryland, or I should say a Patty, in Maryland. And I love this idea. Well, I actually have two back-to-back ideas. So her idea had this really heartwarming approach. Midway through last year, Patty and her team decided that they were going to send a care package to any client who had a grandchild. And the thought behind this was that they would, each of the 6 partners in the practice came up with the childhood book that meant the most to them. And so they packaged up these 6 books for every time there was a new grandchild and wrapped it in beautiful wrapping paper and wrote a lovely note and sent it off. And they said that it was so well received that they're obviously going to continue it this year. And that what they heard back from their clients was that they love the thoughtful and personal approach. And so I love that. First of all, I love books, but I love childhood books. And I love that it was meaningful to each of them, that they chose something that meant a lot to them. My favorite book, by the way, is Are You My Mother from Dr. Seuss. So that's what I would say. And the second one, which is also a grandchild story, is actually from a male advisor. Charlie is a top producer on Long Island, and he and his team do an annual event, and it's called Bring Your Granddaughter to Lunch Day, which I already love. I wish I could share his the whole plan for the day, because it was soup to nuts, just packed with really great ideas. But I'm just going to share 2 of them with you that really jumped out at me. They have these thought-provoking questions on the table when everybody sat down. And the one that I loved the most was, and again, it would be assumed the grandmother's answering this. What is the financial challenge that you wish you knew earlier than you figured it out, right? When did you figure out the biggest challenge in your financial life, and what did you learn from it? And I wish I could ask my grandmother that, like, what was your challenge that you wish you had learned earlier in life? But it also made me think about my own children and saying, okay, you know what, maybe I should share some of my wisdom now and say, all right, I want you to know this well before I learned it. So I love that idea. And then the second thing that jumped out at me was that they talked about compounding. And we all know compounding is that just evergreen topic that never goes out of style. And anytime anybody shares compounding story with me, I'm always just blown away at what compounding does. So I love both of those ideas.
Yeah, I mean, just, the title is so compelling, bring your grandchild to lunch. So, the title in and of itself probably has attracted a lot of people, but great idea for next gen. We get so many questions about, like, how do I reach the next generation? Well, obviously, so this is the next gen. So terrific ideas. And thank you so much, Patty and Charlie, for sharing those. My idea comes from a top producer at Morgan Stanley. And I think it's really cute because she said, I decided a year ago I wanted to clone my best clients. Well, who the heck doesn't want to do that, right? You want everybody to be your best client. But she actually took action, and she pulled out her book. And, it's kind of an arduous process because she's been in business 20 years and she's got, a pretty strong client base. But she said, who are the people I like to work with the most and who are my best clients? And it might not be highest assets, but it's people she wants in her life. And so what she found when she did this exercise, and she's like, wow, all of these clients, the thing they have in common is they're all women in their 50s who are active. So whether it's marathon runners, bike riders, what have you. And she's like, I didn't even realize I attracted, this many people. Well, she herself is a bike rider. But what she did this past year is she said, I am just going to market to and prospect to women in their 50s, who are active. And so that's where she's chosen to spend all her marketing dollars. And she's gotten a really great response. And the one tip she gave, which I thought was something we always overlook, is print ad. And print ad is expensive, and we all think print ad is dead, but it's really not. And what she does is in her local papers, local magazines, not just women's, because remember, if you're advertising and let's say a male says, oh, this woman is the financial advisor for women, and then they know somebody who's recently widowed or divorced or just, an entrepreneur who needs some help, they're going to refer you. So don't just choose women's magazines. But she said that this local advertising has really led to a lot of people going, oh, I saw your picture, I know who you are. So it has kind of made her stand out as like the female to go to if you need financial advice.
Yeah, and I can stand behind that story. It's a little bit different, but in the town that I moved out of my town a year or 2 ago, but in Montgomery, there was a woman who was in print ad every single week in our local paper, and she was a realtor. And I saw her for years and years and years. And in the beginning, I didn't even know her. But when I went to sell my house, guess who I called? Valerie, because Valerie is the go-to for selling your house in Montgomery. So it definitely works.
Yeah, and Valerie probably with the sale of your house paid for, 2 years of advertising. So
Exactly.
just something to rethink about and be re-inspired about. So I see we have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to bring this last idea, which was the one that we received the most response on. So this is working. And it is holding events. Now, before your eyes glaze over and you say you don't want to hold an event, let me just give you a couple of great ideas. So we have Viola. Viola is a top wealth producer in British Columbia. And over the past couple of years, what her and her team have done is they started this Women Wealth series. And the key to the success here is they've been doing it consistently. So they've created a series of 12 events. Some of them are virtual online, some of them are in person. It could be a lunch, it could be a breakfast, but she has this whole schedule for the whole year. And it is to educate women on their financial wellness. And this is what they promote all year. And she said, it really has been successful because people who couldn't attend in March or April, she'll just say, oh, well, I have one in May, June, and July. And so she has found that they've been getting more and more filled. Our biggest fear, of course, is, having an event and having 2 people show up. But she said, I've had that happen, but I've also had 20 people show up or 30 people show up. So it's been super successful. And that was her number one idea for the past 2 years that has really grown her business.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, we have a client who's in Idaho is doing something similar with local businesses. And she's doing a great job with talking to local businesses and on a quarterly basis. She's on a quarterly, but it's an all-female initiative. And she looks for female business owners and does events quarterly to drive people to these local businesses and to create community around the females in her small little town in Idaho. I love it.
I do too. And I know who you're talking about, and she does like little boutique pop-ups. Like she'll have little pop-up events. So the boutique owner is loving her and referring her to clients because she's obviously advertising for the boutique, and she always has some cool little gifts she's giving away. And remember, the compelling title, whatever that's going to be, is what's going to draw people there. What we always find when we're talking to our clients and trying to convince them to have events, because I think most of our businesses have grown, organically over the last couple of years, but we really need to continue to prospect to build our businesses. But most people say to Beth and I don't want to get in front of people. Ugh, like I'm scared of that. Or, how am I going to fill a room? So what Beth and I have started, and you'll see it in the show notes from Patrick, is a class called Speak Up. And it's just for financial advisors to kind of build that confidence, learn how to create a really compelling topic and presentation, and also present dynamically so that you will go out and, hold events. And I think our top tip, from that class, Beth, is to do something like Viola's doing and then build a card, just like a postcard for the next 6 months of your events, and have it with you at all times so that if you are at the soccer game and you don't want to push product, you can just say, hey, I hold this series of events for women or whoever your target market is, and I'd love you to join me at the next one. Here's my card with the next 6 events. So encourage you to hold events. And if you're interested and a little nervous, check out Speak Up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're running out of time. We have a minute left. So I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of Holly and I to thank all of the advisors who reached out to us and gave us their amazing ideas. And if you're on this call and you have an amazing idea, we want to hear about it. We would love to write an ebook about all of these amazing ideas. So if you have an idea and you want to share it with us, we would love to hear it. Or if you just want to talk to us and get a little inspiration, by all means, reach out to us. We love to connect with you. So until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both.